Earth could be in for a close call in space when a huge asteroid passes by our planet tomorrow. Nicknamed the Rock, the asteroid, which is more than 600 metres wide, is expected to pass within 1.8 kilometres of our planet, something which it has not done in 400 years. Now, scientists say it'll be a long time before it does another flyby, at least 5 centuries.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And what about that for a close call? With Channel 9 News reporting that the 600-metre wide asteroid, which would wipe us out if it hit us, would be passing
within 1.8 kilometres of our planet.
Tin hats on. That was whisker close. And no surprise that 12 hours later, a sombre Carl Stefanovic was so relieved.
Look, we're all lucky to be alive this morning.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. The Earth had a very, very celestial close call overnight when an asteroid went whizzing past just centimetres away from us.
So, how near were we to disaster?
At its closest point, about 1.8 million kilometres from Earth. Deep breaths, everyone.
1.8 million, not 1.8. So, almost 5 times the distance to the moon, not 5 times the height of Chicago's Trump International Tower. But now, let's come back to Earth and an audacious bid to take the Commonwealth Games to the bush.
Going for gold!
Exclusive 2030 Commonwealth Games bid.
Yes, as the Herald Sun's Jackie Epstein trumpeted before Easter in 3 full pages spread across the paper, 11 towns in regional Victoria are banding together to win the 2030 Games. And not surprisingly, journalists hit the road to Shepparton to find out more.
In breaking news this morning, Victoria is launching a bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Christina Hearn joins us now for the latest on this from Shepparton.
11 regional cities and towns in Victoria are coming together for this bold bid for the 2030 Commonwealth Games. It is being spearheaded by the Shepparton City Council. The other places involved: Geelong, Bendigo, Nagambie, Warrnambool, Port Campbell, Wodonga, Mount Buller, Mildura, Yarrawonga, Traralgon and also Ballarat.
In sporty Shepparton, population 63,000, where a task force had been set up to drive the bid, the local paper had Commonwealth fever.
Our Games bid. Shepparton leads bold plan for regional Victoria to host 2030 Commonwealth Games.
So, how excited were those other 10 towns, like Mildura, due to host softball and beach volleyball? More like surprised.
Cities Games shock. Hey, Shepparton, if you want to use us in your Commonwealth Games plans, at least talk to us first.
But no doubt Geelong, which may be hosting the opening ceremony, is more advanced with its planning. Or not.
Our Games surprise. Key stakeholders have been shocked by an audacious Shepparton-led bid for regional Victoria to stage the 2030 Commonwealth Games.
Oh dear. Not only was Geelong not involved in planning the bid, it seems the convention centre to host the gymnastics competition hasn't been built, funded or even approved. Ballarat also knew nothing.
Council was not involved in Shepparton's initial announcement, despite being listed as a potential host for badminton and netball events.
But surely the Yarrawonga Yacht Club Commodore was ready to host the sailing, wasn't he?
No, I definitely didn't see that one coming. But every idea has to start somewhere, so why not?
Ah, that's the spirit. And what about Bendigo, which will host swimming, diving, basketball and cycling? Here's the Mayor, Margaret O'Rourke.
And how long have you known about this bid for? Oh, well, I was notified yesterday that there was going to be a bid put forward. On that list, they certainly had a stamp for diving. Now, when we look today, we haven't got diving facilities here.
And as the Bendigo Advertiser also pointed out, the town's Olympic pool, which is under construction, only has 8 lanes instead of the 10 normally required for international competition. So, how firm is this bold Games plan? Well, Shepparton Mayor Denny Adam was forced to admit it has barely reached the drawing board.
Nothing is set in stone. It's just a conversation starter.
That, however, is not the impression one got from reading the Herald Sun's Going for Gold, which swallowed the line that 11 cities were involved and cast it as a winner. And enthusiastic TV reporters on 7, 9, 10 and the ABC also failed to check who was actually on board.
11 country Victorian cities and towns have banded together.
But events would be spread across cities, including Warrnambool, Ballarat, Bendigo, Geelong and Wodonga.
Yep, a potent mix of wishful thinking and PR guff. Or, as the Geelong Advertiser's Nicholas Payne put it in his column,
We bore witness to an ambush this week. Shepparton's plan came out of nowhere, in an announcement that would have been better suited to April the 1st than April the 13th. Either it jumped the gun, or it was one of the smartest marketing moves in regional Victorian history.
almost certainly the latter. And the big city media fell for it, hook, line and sinker. And Herald Sun editor Damon Johnston declined to comment to Media Watch, but told staff the story was a, quote, terrific scoop. But now, to more serious matters, and the death of a journalist in Russia, where you take your life in your hands if you are an opposition politician, human rights activist or investigative reporter, as Nikolai Andrushchenko's family discovered last week.
Russian journalist and Putin critic dies in St. Petersburg after being beaten up by a group of unknown attackers.
Andrushchenko, who had been imprisoned and threatened before, spent his time exposing government corruption, links to organised crime and human rights abuse. And he was a well-known critic of President Putin. But he's not the only Putin critic recently to meet a violent end. Last month, former Russian lawmaker Denis Voronenkov, who'd defected to Ukraine, was gunned down outside his hotel on the streets of Kiev.
Ukrainian officials described the shooting as an execution and accused Russia of state terrorism. It's just the latest incident of violence involving people critical of Moscow.
And just 1 month before that, former Russian TV reporter Vladimir Kara-Murza narrowly escaped a similar fate.
Russian activist and outspoken Putin critic Vladimir Kara-Murza is lucky to be alive, still recovering after someone about a month ago slipped him what his doctors describe as an unidentified toxic substance. In other words, poison.
Kara-Murza suffered multiple organ failure and nearly died, but he survived to accuse Russia's Secret Service of trying to poison him for the second time, and to tell NBC News,
there seems to be an extremely high mortality rate for some reason among independent journalists and political opponents of Mr. Putin in the last 17 years. There's no doubt.
And it certainly is a long list. Opposition leader Boris Nemtsov was shot and killed outside the Kremlin in 2015. 2 years earlier, Boris Berezovsky, a billionaire who funded the Russian opposition, was found hanged in the locked bathroom of his UK home. And 7 years before that, Alexander Litvinenko, who worked for Berezovsky and was investigating corruption linked to Putin, was famously poisoned with polonium in a London hotel. A British government inquiry concluded he was killed on the orders of Russia's Secret Service, the FSB, and that his killing was, quote, probably approved by President Putin. Journalists have also paid with their lives, with at least 36 murdered in Russia in the last 25 years, typically for exposing government corruption or human rights abuses. Anna Politkovskaya, a fierce critic of the Kremlin, was shot dead in her apartment block in 2006. Natalia Estemirova, her colleague at Novaya Gazeta, was kidnapped and shot 3 years later. Others have taken the hint and fled overseas, like Putin biographer Masha Gessen, who told the ABC,
he's a thug. He's a playground bully. He runs a state that is best described as a mafia state. It's not just a metaphor.
But it's not just President Putin that journalists fear. 2 weeks ago, Elena Milashina, who's also a reporter on Novaya Gazeta, went into hiding after breaking the story that Chechen authorities were rounding up and torturing gay men. But this time it was radical Islamists who announced a jihad against the paper and Milashina herself.
It's unbelievable. It reminds us of the situation with Charlie Hebdo.
Milashina, who has faced threats before, says she will leave Russia for a while but continue her work. But she told the Washington Post her colleagues at Novaya Gazeta will stay and live with the risk.
We are experienced with people murdering our colleagues, so we know a little more now about how killers operate. We will pay attention to those things. Sad to say, but we will.
Meanwhile, the New York-based Committee to Protect Journalists is urging that the murderers of Nikolai Andrushchenko be brought to justice, issuing a statement to say,
journalists in Russia have consistently been killed with impunity, and only complete, credible prosecution will break the cycle of violence.
Sadly, the chances of that happening are slim. And finally tonight, to the wonders of technology. See if you can guess what this recent 1 hour special on Channel 9 was selling.
This is the day I've been waiting for. I never thought it would get this big.
True heroes using technology.
Does that feel good with it being a bit tighter?
That's looking much better.
This is quick for us. This is really good.
to make a big difference.
It is extremely exciting. It's insanely crazy.
Changing lives.
And then up, nice soft knees.
I've kicked some goals, yes, I'll say that.
And saving lives.
Do you have any medical issues that we should know about?
I do.
Right across the country.
Yes, it was spruiking the marvels of the much-maligned National Broadband Network, oft described as a joke, a disaster, a colossal waste of money, or all of the above. But Nine's glossy, upbeat, everyday innovators had a very different tale to tell, with stories of how the NBN was bringing joy wherever it goes, from Paruma Island in the remote Torres Strait.
Today, the NBN network has arrived on Paruma. The locals will have fast broadband for the first time.
To our capital cities.
Isn't it amazing that I can do all of this from Gold Coast, Melbourne?
You've done a great job getting to the point you are now.
Thanks, Julia. See you later.
And in the outback.
Great ideas and business opportunities exist for people all over this country and in every location.
And everyone but everyone in this hour-long anthem had good things to say. So, how come? Well, as you may have guessed, Everyday Innovators was paid PR puff. NBN Co told Media Watch,
"The content was produced by Nine on our behalf. We paid for a marketing campaign package with the network."
According to Ebiquity, NBN Co has spent $2.2 million on advertising with Nine since Australia Day. So what part did it play in shaping the programme? Well, NBN provided case study suggestions to Nine, and then
NBN provided sign-off on the content.
Which is why we only heard from happy customers and not from any of the 13,000 people who complained to the Telecommunications Ombudsman last year about NBN services, citing problems like
slow data speeds, unusable services and dropouts.
And which is also why stories like this one were ignored.
So when the NBN goes down, we don't get a lot of great mobile phone coverage. The NBN went down last week for 6 days, so we get a dongle, we pop it in a plastic bag, we clip it onto a rope that has been slung over a tree, just with a little fancy clip.
This is quite high-tech. This is jungle internet.
They say you get what you pay for. So NBN Co got a full-length, glossy, good news plug in prime time, with not a naysayer in sight. But what did Nine's audience think of it all?
Is this Everyday Innovators show on Nine just an ad for the NBN?
Answer, yes. Next question.
Who the hell is paying for this rubbish? I haven't seen a single disclaimer saying this advertisement has been paid for by NBN Co or the government or anyone else. Surely you can't just run these advertorials without some kind of disclosure.
Well, you'd hope not, but you can get pretty close. There was no disclosure at the start of the show, nothing during the programme, and nothing on Nine's website. So what about the end credits? Ah, yes, there it is, the NBN watermark. And believe it or not, that was it. No words, no voiceover, no signposting. And it's all within the rules laid down by the Commercial TV Code of Practice, which in this case is a joke. And there are more programmes like this on Nine, as the network was happy to admit.
We regularly have such content marketing partnerships in our schedule and believe that through Nine Productions, Nine's in-house TV content production and distribution division, we are well positioned to help brands tell compelling stories.
Compelling, maybe, but not for viewers, who numbered only 169,000 across the capital cities, which saw Everyday Innovators beaten by 50 other shows that day, including a late-night repeat of Hawaii Five-0 on 10. And you can read more about tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website, where you can get a transcript and download the programme. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or Media Watch on Twitter. And don't miss Media Bites every Thursday on Facebook, Twitter and our website, and also on iView. But for now, till next week, that's all from us. Goodbye.